Hello everybody, welcome back to Sophisticakes by Mary. For today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how I made this two-tiered edible gold and stenciled cake. Not only are we using edible gold and buttercream stenciling on top of that gold, I'm also going to show you how I made these fantasy flowers. But first, we're going to get our cake ready to go. And I already have this cake filled, and I'm doing my first layer of buttercream. I'm using my American buttercream that I like to use. It's a crusting American buttercream. I use this for almost all of my cakes. And I will attach a link down below, and I will also add a card. I'll try to remember to add a card up here to a tutorial where I show you how I make that buttercream. We're just smoothing it out as best as we can. And I like to use these plastic scrapers because they're lighter weight. I find that that's just more comfortable in my hand. But you can get a smoother finish if you're using a metal scraper. What I do to combat that is you might see me here every once in a while spraying my cake with a water bottle. And all that is water in there. And when I spray the cake with water and I use my plastic scraper, it helps me smooth it. So I get the same look as I would with a metal scraper. I'm just buttercreaming both of my tiers. This was a 4-inch cake on the top and a 6-inch on the bottom, I believe. 5 or 6 on the bottom. Now I set those in the refrigerator to chill, and I'm going to go ahead and start making my fantasy flowers. Now all I'm using is some black fondant and some white fondant, and I'm making them into basically gum paste by adding some Tylose to them. And what Tylose does is it makes them dry faster and firmer. I just made a cone shape out of that, or a bud shape. I don't know how to explain that actually. And then just as you saw, just used my tool and kind of drilled a hole in the bottom to expand it to make it more of a round flower shape. And then I took a ball of the black and I placed it in the center with a little bit of water to attach them to each other. And I'm just using my veining tool to kind of drag the black into the white. And you can see on the bottom, I have a little nodule on the bottom there, and that's what I'm going to use to insert my wire. Now, what I like about fantasy flowers is you don't have to worry about making them look real, like a legit flower, because they're not. They are whatever you want them to be. And I'm just using this tool to add, it's like a quilting tool. It's where you make when you have a quilting pattern, you use that to do the gathering look in between in the point. And I use that to kind of create some ridges. And then I am just thinning out those edges on, this is just like a mattress pad that has never been used on a mattress. I like to use it to thin my edges. And then I just added my wire in there and pulled it through. I had added a little bit of water. I had dipped it in a little water first and then pulled it through. There's a little hook shape on the end, which gets it to hold on and stay in there. And then I added just some dragees to the center, and I put them in the flower formers and set them aside to dry. I did actually, I believe, do those the night before. Now I'm adding my straws, my boba tea straws, to support the top tier. They're going to hold all the weight of the top tier. And they're all cut to the same height. And then I'm just filling in between the tiers. And this top tier had been in the freezer. That's why I could lift it without worrying up too much about touching it. And I'm using my favorite, my Barnabas Gold. And guys, I am a Barnabas Gold affiliate partner. So there will be a link where you can get a 10% discount if you purchase with my code on their website. So you just use my affiliate link, and I'll attach all that information down below. If I remember, I'll try to put it on the screen here too. And since there's some condensation on these cakes, since they've been in the refrigerator, I don't have to worry about adding anything to get the gold to stick. If you are not dealing with a chilled cake, then you just might want to put a little water where you want your gold to stick. And I wanted a good coverage of the gold. I wanted quite a bit because I'm going to do a stenciling on top of this gold. Which means that you're going to have to set it in your refrigerator to firm up again after you attach the gold. I just want it to kind of dry out a little bit. So my stencil doesn't stick so bad to the gold when I use the stencil with the buttercream. And that is an issue. I love the look of this, but you do have to allow for the idea that you're going to end up pulling some of your gold off when you remove your stencil. So just know that ahead of time. And I like to use a fluffy brush to get the gold leaf to stick. But this is after it had been in the refrigerator to set up. I'm using a pastry brush to try to remove any of those extra pieces that don't want to stick. Just get those out of the way before you start stenciling, because they're going to stick to your stencil for sure. And I'm just using this plastic stencil that we have at the bakery. And I'm just using some pins, some straight pins to get the stencil to hold up so that I have my hands free. And then I'm just using my buttercream. It's about the consistency of peanut butter. I add a little water to it to thin it down a little bit. But since there's a lot of bigger holes or bigger pattern in the stencil, you don't want to make it too thin because you can accidentally get it to squeeze underneath your pattern. But it also can't be so thick that you can't remove the stencil. So there's a fine line, and that honestly just kind of takes practice to figure out where that is. Peanut butter is a good place to start. And there you can see where I removed the stencil. It did remove some of the, or it kind of dislodged some of the gold, and I just used my pastry brush to kind of tap it back down. A little thing that might help is to actually put some cornstarch or powdered sugar on the back of your stencil. That kind of helps a little bit. And then I'm just adding some buttercream petals, just to add another layer of texture. This is a fairly simple design because basically all you have is the white and the gold. So I wanted to zhuzh it up a little bit by adding some petals. And then, of course, I need to add some little white dragees, some little ones. I just feel like the petals and the stencil and the dragees, they just kind of go together. And I just dip my finger in water and dip them in the dragees and then transfer them on to the cake. And you might have to wrestle with them a little bit to get them to stick to where the gold is. They might not want to stick there, but try to aim for all the buttercream places. Then I'm just attaching my flowers, just kind of seeing where they want to go. Now, since this is not for an order, I didn't add any straws and I didn't cover the wires, but if this was for an order, I would cover your wires with some floral tape or use straws. The problem with straws that I find is that it's hard to get them to add any height to the cake because they want to just slide right into the straw. What you can do to prevent that a little bit is add a little buttercream into the straw once it's inserted, or a little bit of fondant into your straw. That helps a little bit. And I thought it needed a little bit of extra something. So I'm just using some artificial flowers and some embellishments, some leaves, and I don't know what you'd call that fluffy thing. I don't know, but I thought it looked really good with this design. If you know what that's called, let me know. Put it in the comments. I like to use the correct verbiage, but sometimes I don't know what it is. It's a white fluffy thing to me. And then I wanted to add a little bit of extra touch of black too, to kind of tie that into the rest of the design. And I am attaching these with some buttercream. All right, so there it is all done, guys. I hope you like it, and I hope you learned something.
Thank you guys so much for taking the time.
And I hope you learned some things that you can use on your own designs. And if you do decide to do some of these, please send me pictures of what you have done to my Instagram under the same name, Sophisticakes by Mary. So thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch my video. And if you'd like to watch some other videos, go ahead and click on the link to one of these other videos shown here. And if you would like to check out my other social media, I am on Facebook and Instagram under the same name, Sophisticakes by Mary. And please take the time to share, like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so that you know when I upload another video. Thank you so much, and we'll catch you on the next tutorial.